religious factors of it. Okay, so you have the male energy and the female energy. All right, the male becomes the female. Okay, which is hermaphroditic. Okay, the beta decay of neutron, as I was saying at the end of the other one, neuter of protos. All right, so this literally decays into the male and female. All right, so you have the Y and the X factors. Okay. All right, so the male and the female, boom, they conceive. Okay, they have sex, they have a child. Okay, they conceive a universe. All right, basically, the male and female is the Big Bang. You know, it's like an inside joke. The Big Bang, the male and female energy banging, conceiving a universe, which is the aspect of mind. Okay, it's also a plan, hence God's plan. It's also love, hence God's love, you know, or God's will, the mind of God, you know. I mean, just from the concept of two people having sex, all of that comes to be, okay? And it's not even two people, it's two energies in space conceiving a universe, all right? A universe is a supreme being. Why? Well, because being means existence. So a supreme existence would be a supreme being. Now, if this was to happen on a microbiome level, then it would be a human being or human existence that was born. All right? This is what it means that we're created in God's image. This is actually what it means. All right? And when it comes to, you know, of his kind, that's prokaryotic, and of their kind, that's eukaryotic. I'm not going to get into all that. All right? I could totally start blowing some minds with that Bible right there, but I'm not going to do it. All right? You can doubt me all you want, but I'm just saying. Okay, so you literally have the Holy Father, like I was explaining in the other video. You know, the Holy Father, that's the, you know, Father in space, okay? Omega means grow, or to grow, or growth, you know? So, and what do you do inside your womb? You grow. Even on Earth, it's like the area for growth, all right? That's what space inherently is. God, the omnipresent God, other than the energy, see, there's space and energy, okay? The energy is the energy aspect of it, okay? That's the male, the seed. The space is the female aspect of it. That's like the womb, okay? So space itself is inherently female, all right? While the energy is inherently male, okay? This is Kronos and Anunnaki, or Ananke, okay? Kronos and his sister Ananke. Basically, it's space and energy, or space and time, but that's going to create energy, because anytime you have matter relative to space, you will have time as a byproduct. See, before you have any matter, it's just timeless space, because you have nothing to measure, you know? There's just infinity there, and infinity is not a measurement of time, it's the lack of a measurement, technically. So you can't apply any measurement unless you apply matter. Boom, once you apply matter, now, time is a byproduct. And that's that illusion in quantum mechanics or quantum physics. You know, they're like, oh, the universe doesn't exist unless you're observing it. Now, people have taken that to the most ignorant regimes. I'm like, dude, that is, this dude tried to tell me that the universe isn't real unless he's looking at it. I'm like, dude, come on, man, you're taking it, like, dude, I'm explaining why. Because time does not exist until you have matter. If you are relative to that space, you are the matter inside that universe. So if I'm sitting there counting on my watch, 5, 6, 7, and then all of a sudden I quit existing, that universe literally only existed for 6 or 7 seconds while I was in there measuring it. Then I disappeared. I was no more matter inside it. Therefore, no time exists anymore. It's just timeless space again. See what I'm saying? And that's why that people have gotten it confused. You have to. It's a little cerebral. You have to think. It takes a little thinking, you know. But like I said on the last video, if you believe in me, I can help you understand some pretty crazy stuff, man. Basically, I'm talking to a couple people that even pay attention to these, because I really only think like 4 or 5 people on my channel actually listen to me. All right, see, look at this. Now I was saying this is the Bose-Einstein condensate. All right, the Bose-Einstein condensate. I'm starting to get talk fast. Anyway, there's no color charge, okay? Technically, a proton can't exist unless there's a color charge of the quarks. The quarks basically jumping around, that's like an angular momentum. But it's on such a small level, we're just seeing them jump around, okay? But they're moving so fast that we're seeing them jump around, but they're not jumping around randomly. They actually have an angular momentum that's really, really fast. And then you have the electron around it. It has an angular momentum, okay? Then you have Earth around the sun. It has an angular momentum, You know, you have the moon around the Earth. It's got an angular momentum. You know, angular momentum is technically gravity and anti-gravity. Okay, centrifugal force is anti-gravity. Centripetal force is gravity. And I don't know why they don't apply this in a fusion generator, like I was saying about the Ark of the Covenant and all that on one of my other videos, and creating a fusion generator. Cold fusion is not hard. It just needs a couple little things, put in an intricate little order, and boom, you can have cold fusion. The only thing is, it gets real hot and releases a lot of energy. So you got to sweep that off with some thermoelectric generators, or you're literally going to burn yourself up. You'll probably end up catching yourself on fire and all kinds of shit. I'm not even going to get into it. You could do it on a small level with a semi-laden jar and some nuclear material. You know, you might be able to get it out of some americium out of a smoke detector and use it. If you set it up in a particular order, you'll get a micro scale, a very, very, very small scale of fusion. It'll produce a little bit of heat. But anyway, like I was saying, this has no color charge. Okay, so there's no angular momentum. Literally, Bose-Einstein condensate will fall through stuff. Like say I poured it through my hand. You know, it would fall through my hand. You know, it has no angular momentum. My cells, my particles and atoms in my body have angular momentum. It has a lot of energy, okay? So whenever it goes to fall through, this having no energy, basically all the empty space in all my atoms, this is falling right through all that empty space. Since it has no angular momentum, it doesn't have a chance of hitting any other angular momentum particles inside my body. See what I'm saying? So it'll basically just fall through because it has no color charge. It has no angular momentum. Gravity will literally collapse everything unless it has angular momentum. If there was no quark gluon, the gluon that pretty much holds the quarks in this material here that does this, if that did not exist, if it wasn't spinning, it'd be like our sun. If our Earth wasn't spinning around it, it would literally pull the planet right in. You know, gravity would literally just pull the planet right in. Just like these quarks. The atom would literally fall apart. It would just get pulled in. Gravity would just crush it. You know? It would just fall apart. Or it would fall together. It wouldn't have any angular momentum. That's how everything maintains its shape. Angular momentum of particles. And it's anti-gravity. And then you have your centripetal force, which is your gravity. And if you want to get a nuclear reaction, all they're going to have to do is literally make a cell. You need salt iron water. And you can use, literally, I'd use probably radium, 226, and spin it really fast and send an electrical current through it. That way, whenever you get the nuclear reaction, you'll literally get it inside the water with the particles fusing together. If you have the ionized, if you ionize some gases, say like ionized hydrogen, okay, and then you have alpha particles. Those are positives. Those are very positive particles, okay? They'll repel each other. But if you apply the electrons in there, the electrons are going to go right toward the positive particles. So if you have those combined into a vicinity, you can weld them together with electrons. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to use the nature of the electron and the protons hate towards each other against it. That's how you create the fusion generator. And like I was saying, these protons are getting saved by that neutron because that electron wants to kill that proton. Okay? But since that neutron is a species of both, it's a nuclear species, and it became the electron too. So it's literally like, hey, buddy, you know, this is my guy right here. I'm hanging out with him, so you go chill out, you know. He's like, oh, yeah, all right. So he hangs in the vicinity. I'll get you someday, you know. And you use that. You want alpha particles, which is nuclear energy, and they're very positive. That's helium-4 nuclei. Okay, you want helium-4 nuclei, and you want ionized hydrogen, and you want electrons. And you're essentially emulating the sun. Exactly. But the star is actually going to be red. It's going to be like a crimson color. It's going to be a lithium star, basically. Like a brown dwarf, like a lithium brown dwarf star on a micro scale. I'll explain that in another one. Anyway, I'm starting to digress from where I was at. Well, I can't remember where I was at. Religious factors. Hold on, let me think. Oh, yeah, like this was your nuclear core, your alpha, then your mega female shell. Everything takes this form. You know, atoms, cells, even a galaxy has its nuclear core and then its covalent shell. And it's similar to a cell in a way, a biocell. All of the stuff on the macrocosm in space actually correlates to the bioscale in our bodies. A lot of the same stuff. Let's see. Let me get my configurations of energy. That's what I was talking about. All right. See, this is cold. It's perturbative. Basically, this is where the preons and zeons, they're low energy quarks. It goes high energy to low energy. This is basically where it's cold. Okay, it's cold and slow moving. It's like it's basically cold, slow moving, and it has no energy. Basically, it's a high-low. And this is a high-high, and this is a low-high. This is matter. Matter is like a energy in a low state, but it has a high charge because it has color charge. So it's got a high charge in a low state. This has a high charge in a high state. This is the singularity. This is when it goes through its big process. This is beforehand when it was cold and it was high or low in a high state, because the high state it has no color charge, but it has all kinds of potential, all the freedom there is, you know. It has asymptotic freedom. That means there's a lot of potential. It's not hemmed up yet, you know. It's still going to become something. And it's a very high nuclear state. It's pre-atomic. See what I'm saying? That comes before, you know, atoms. So this is literally this is more or less what the Bose-Einstein condensate is. It's literally particles that are so cold that they have no energy, no color charge, no angular momentum at all. And eventually it'll heat up into a quark-gluon plasma, which is another state of matter, and then it'll become matter. But these are energy configurations. They're not necessarily states of matter. They're states of energy configuration, you know? See, there's a misconception, and if we start getting things more technical in our science, then we'll understand it a lot better. See, here's the scale of relativity and the reverse relativity. More or less the scale invariance. See, here's the nutricosm, okay? Now imagine you're looking, this is the microcosm. This is our fundamental cosm right here. This is the macrocosm, okay? This is larger, this is normal, and this is small. All right, when you look down on this, the relativity is, it's slow moving and very fast, you know? The particles last only seconds, you know? It's over real quick, and they're slow moving. Okay, right here you have fast moving, and it lasts eons when you look up. See, it's like the opposite. It's like the relativity is reversed. The space and okay, say something's flying through space. It's real slow compared to space, but it's moving like 35,000 miles per hour or something. So it's really fast moving, and it's slow over time, eons. You know, the universe is going to last eons. Planets going to last eons. You know. But everything's over fast on the micro scale. On the macro scale, it's reversed. You know, it's slow moving, fast time. In the space, it's fast moving, slow time. Then you have your normal cosm. Okay, this is the scale invariance that they don't have a scale set up on. They don't have a scale of relativity. And technically, space is actually the temporal dimension, not time. You can't have any time in space if there's no matter. If there's just empty, infinite space, it's timeless. That's the temporal dimension. That is the temporal dimension until you add matter. Boom, now you have something to measure, and now you have time. All right, like I was saying, with the singularity being relative to space, it's really tiny, and it forms that neutron star and that gluon plasma and all of that. Technically, a black hole is like space, okay? And you have that gluon material here. And everything that falls into the black hole is going to technically get crushed right to the center. But it's not going to have, it's going to technically be weightless. Now, I know it sounds weird, but the factors are here. Okay, as strong as this black hole is, all right, if you have it dead center, it has an even pull all the way around it. It's almost like the gravitron whenever you ride in it. When you're up against the walls, I mean, you're getting slung up against the wall. You can't even lift your head, anything up. You know, you're being pressed up against the wall. Okay, that's if it's over here. It's almost like it's being spun. Now, if you're at the center of it, you're going to feel anything. You know, you're right at the center. So there's an even distribution of energy all the way around you. That's why this is technically going to be, it's going to be weightless. It's going to be compressed. Once it goes through a singularity, it's going to literally tear it up into its preons and zeons. You know, its subatomic particles, the pure energy that it is. And it's going to be crushed to the center. And it's going to want to explode like the Big Bang does. Okay? This is like a micro Big Bang. It's another Big Bang. It's a singularity, but it's inside a black hole. Like the whole of space contains the singularity. But it can't blow up because it's got all this pressure around it keeping it centered. So the best way it can do is distribute light as Hawking radiation. It gets very, very hot and basically burns itself out by distributing the light, heating up and becoming a quasar. But the thing is, you can't see it at the center because light cannot travel through this gluon material. See what I'm saying? It cannot traverse the material of a black hole. Because a black hole is technically a quantum mechanical superfluid. All right? It's not a hole. You can't put a hole in space, which is already a hole. Okay? It's something. Okay? You can't put nothing inside nothing. You're never going to get anything. But we got a black hole. That is something. So it's something inside nothing, which is space. So it's got to be something. It's a quantum mechanical superfluid. I know it's weird, but it's literally the simplest ways. Occam's razor. Occam's razor. You have to stick with what you know. And it all makes sense. Because all the physics can prove this. This is technically what we would consider an axion. That's what this is. And this is the axial bearing. Technically, a dream told me this. This is the axion poles, and this is the axial bearing, and this is bearing 0. That's what the dream told me. That's what, literally, I woke up and looked at this and labeled. It's in here. The other one is, but a dream told me that. All right, see, now here's your alpha. This is the center. This is the nucleus, the cell nucleus. This is your alpha. All right, this is your beta propellers. Okay, do you see any similarities here? The nucleus, nuclear alpha, alpha solenoid, the nuclear envelope. This is a nucleus. This is the nuclear energy of a cell. Okay, the beta propellers. All right, that's your alpha beta on your biological scale, and your omega is the rest of it. This is just the nucleus. Of course, this is the one where I'm explaining what dark matter actually is. There's another one, which is basically a species of sound. That's what dark matter is. It's a species of sound. There's a couple of them, actually. The CMB is a species of sound, too. See, basically, I call it zeta mechanics. You have zeta mechanics, which is what is going to form the singularity. It's going to go from the cold, nuclear energy, the holy smoke, the Bose-Einstein condensate, to the preons, to the quarks, to the neutrons. It's going to do all this, but during this, you're going to get your bosons and your force-carrying particles, which is, the Z and W bosons, and your leptons, all your quarks. I mean, up quark, down quark, your leptons, the muon neutrino. I mean, this is where your fundamental particles come from. That's what I was trying to say. I was having a brain fart. Your fundamental particles, this is where they form. This is through this formed singularity. Everything that happens, all of the particle interactions, all the changes and metamorphose that it has to go through, literally creates all of these particles. And some of them are actually created during the singularity process. I mean, as it's burning, as it's the singularity and it goes off, some tracer particles are actually formed. But this is what I was trying to get to. Okay, the nuclear energy inside your brain. Okay, that's your nuclear alpha. That's the limbic system of your body. Your cerebellum is your beta. This is basically what bridges these two together. I think I made a video of this. But anyway, the nuclear alpha, beta, omega. Okay, this omega, this cerebrum, is a transmitter and a receiver. All right, similar to how that pyramid was, a transmitter and a receiver, and it's the same way. Remember how I was explaining the alpha and the beta, all of that, and then it's the alpha and the beta in the singularity and stuff, and then it's the alpha and the beta in the human's brain. It's all the same. This is literally the soul, the bioenergy. Like I was saying, the Y factor and the X factor. See, this is the eukaryotes. You have your Y, which is your prokaryote, and then the prokaryotes are the Y factors, and then the eukaryotes are the Y and X factors. So you have one gamete, which is your nuclear, and the other gamete, which is your electric. And this is plasma and conception. Humans created in the same image and likeness as this, singularity. See, imagine this is all space, and this is the singularity. This is analogous the same way. Like the 6th and the 9, or a God's eye. See, the singularity is really tiny to the whole of space, It's just a dot. It's just dark space, Okay? You have your egg, the zygote, and it's producing its daughter cells. It goes through its morula, and then on the 6th day, it blasticized. God created the universe in 6 days. It blastocyst, the Big Bang blast, just the 6th day. It just seems weird. And plus, the 6s are amazing. I mean, it's nothing but 6s and 18s. See, like the galactic year, 6,006 or 6.666 galactic year, the eukaryotes appear on Earth, 750 million. That's our epochs, okay? That's our epochs, and each one, if you do that times 6, that's 4.5 billion years, So that's the age of the Earth. If you do 2.250 billion years times 6, you get 13.5 billion, and 200 million years ago is where the 7th day started. 200 million years ago. So that's one thing it tells me, that somewhere humans existed in the universe at least 200 million years ago. Maybe even on Earth. And they may have even been giants. Alright, see how the male, this is this is sperm, okay? This has the mitochondria on it. So it's the nuclear, and it's got mitochondria X, okay? So it's like a seed in itself, okay? This is a YX. Okay, YX. Alright. Of course, it's going to meet the other half, which is the ovum here. This is soul bonding, more or less, or the X factor, the bioelectric, endothermic, the ovum, the other half of the haploid cell, the egg cell. And that's your electric. That's your cerebrum right there. Okay, so you get this right here. This is basically the sperm. This is you. This is what you get from your father. And this mitochondria becomes what's going to form with the mitochondria that helps form your brain, okay? The mother's mitochondria here is going to communicate with this mitochondria, okay? And it's going to help your brain form, and this is where your cerebrum, or your cerebellum comes from, okay? Your cerebellum helps these two unify. It keeps them synchronized, more or less, amplifies, okay? This is basically your beta, alpha, beta, omega, all right? It's all the same. It's always YX, X, YXXX, YY, or no, it's YX, YX. Technically, these are chromosomal diseases too, as a matter of fact. I can't remember the name, but it's, look it up, the YX chromosomal disease or whatever. You'll find it. That's another thing that indicates that this has something to do with evolution, and the trait is still in there somewhere, and that's why we have that evolutionary trait. It's just a trait that's in there. But it's way, 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 way deep in our DNA, because it's really rare, but it's a trait nonetheless. Because of this evolution, the way we formed from the primordial ooze. Now, many of you might say you don't believe in the primordial ooze. Well, I'm sorry, ribonucleotides are formed. The planet literally does this stuff. Your nuclear core, I could have told them that the core of the planet, they found out about a year and a half ago that it's radioactive. I could have told them this. You know why? Because nuclear energy stresses the nuclei of cells, which causes evolution. That's what causes a change in the cellular strand, the radiation, or the nuclear energy, or any kind of alpha applied to it. It creates a cellular stress, and that stress creates evolution. It creates changes. So ecosystems basically incubate ribonucleotides, and you have nucleosynthesis and through thermodynamics, because it's all thermodynamics, nuclear energy and electric energy, Y and X. See what I'm saying? This neutron, you have your beta decay, you have your YX, and then Y and X, your electron, a proton, and here's your neutrino, which decays. Okay, your singularity, similar. Your neutrinos, that's your light, that's your ether. Okay, you'll have your Y and X, and you'll have your YX. All of this forming the singularity. The same thing here. You have your Y and X, which is the male sperm. You have your X, that's the female. You have Y and X here when you have Earth, Mother Earth, and you have your nuclear core, which is your Y, which creates all these nucleosynthesis and stuff. It's the same. Here's your limbic system. Okay? That's your Y. Alright, your YX. That's your limbic. Here's your cerebrum, your cerebral cortex. That's your X factor. Your Y and X. It's all the same. This is the nature of everything. This is technically the theory of everything. It gets deeper than this. All the details. I'm just trying to help people get on the same track. I've only been doing it for a couple decades, but I can't ever figure it all out. There's no possible way. It's impossible. All I can do is help people get on the track, and people can find different stuff out, like we've done through science over history. I'm just trying to help people see what it actually is without any kind of bias. Religions are trying to tell us something. And it is a science. Our science, that the scientists and physicists tell us, they're not telling us everything. And they're obscuring what they are telling us, which makes it confusing to understand all this. You have to look past the Big Bang Theory. Technically, the day I realized that the Big Bang Theory was a lie, I just had an epiphany driving through Catlettsburg one day. And all of a sudden, a whole wave of information started falling in. I mean, literally, it's like I was driving through, and then the fact that space had to exist, something just told me, you can't erase nothingness. I mean, I just said that to myself, and then boom, it was like a black hole of energy just, but it was data going right into my brain. All the stuff that I'd had on reserve that I couldn't figure it out just fell, boom, like a big, like literally, like a black hole, all with data just falling straight in. Like my brain was just sucking all that stuff that was sitting there hovering in after that finally broke. After that finally broke, the Big Bang, after you look past the fact that they say space was created with time and matter. No. Space precedes all. Then once matter forms, time forms along with it. Synchronous. Parallel. The temporal dimension is space, not time. Okay? The Y and X, all this stuff, happens in the laws of thermodynamics, astrophysics, on the biological scale, the micro quantum scale, and the algebraic scale. I mean, it's literally in everything. Everything starts from neutrality, which is 1 and 0, which is something and nothing. And the Holy Father is literally the nuclear energy in the whole of space, because space is holy, because it's a whole. And that's the bottom line on that part. And God is just a word for all this. It's a word for the nature of the universe, just how it works. It's an illusion of a man in the sky, technically, because you have the male and female energies. See what I'm saying? So, literally, God is just a word. And that's all I believe it is a word for this magnificent process of quantum theory. Okay? So, I'm just saying that yes, there is a God, yes, it can be proven, and yes, it is everything that religions say, but it's not a man in the sky. Of course, it is everything else. And it is everywhere all at the same time. It is good to exist. It's good that it happened, because I'm glad I exist to be able to acknowledge it. And, it's all the science combined. It's omniscience. I mean, it's all of it. So, literally, I mean, this, I think, pretty much sums it up. I mean, if anybody wants to know anything, just ask, and I'll tell you whatever you want to know. And I'll give you the straightest answer I possibly can.